Welcome, guys. It's another rendition of our APO Facebook Live. I'm glad that you guys are here. All right, my name is Sarah Johnson, and I play with the APO. I play the flute and the piccolo. I started playing with the APO probably, I think it was 2017. I got my start on one of the Link Up concerts, which was a lot of fun. We get to play with the kids, and the kids have their recorders. So that's just a little bit about me. I'm from this area. I grew up here. I graduated from Bentonville High School. So I kind of call Arkansas my home. And I've just been pleased to be part of APO, and I've really enjoyed it so far. So I actually went to college with the intention of being a history teacher, of all things, and God kind of changed my path, and I ended up switching majors to become a musician. And I just loved playing the flute so much, I thought, well, that's what I want to do. So I went to school to become a performance major. I got my bachelor's and my master's degree. And then I had the awesome privilege of being selected as a Fulbright scholar. So I was able to live for a whole year over in Norway. And I got to study flute and perform in Norway, in Bergen specifically. I studied at the Grieg Academy, and if that sounds familiar to you, it's because you probably know of Edvard Grieg, a very prolific Norwegian composer. So I studied there for a year and got to know the culture, the people, and the music. I didn't know much about Norwegian music, aside from Grieg. Hadn't really heard of anything else. So I want to share a composer that I kind of discovered when I was over in Norway. His name is Øystein Sommerfelt, and I had never heard of him. And he's someone who studied in Oslo at the Oslo Conservatory. He got his degree as a choir master, and he also studied in Paris with Nadia Boulanger, who was very prolific. She had a very long career and worked with a lot of people, a lot of famous composers. And so Sommerfelt got to study under her, and a lot of the people that he studied with did a lot of modern techniques and things. Sommerfelt did a little bit of that, but he found that his love for Norwegian folk music, he just wanted that to run through his pieces. So a lot of the music that he composed is just filled with Norwegian tradition and folk songs and stuff. I'm actually going to play a piece written by him. It's for solo flute. It's called Spring Tunes. A lot of Norwegian music takes from nature, and you learn and discover things from nature. So there's a lot of things from nature that you can kind of hear as I play this piece. You can hear a lot of the Norwegian folk tradition. Norwegian folk tunes usually have very short thematic motives, and they're often repeated. And most of the Norwegian music is pretty short because a lot of the folk dances especially were very short. So this is Spring Tunes. It was created for the season of spring, and as you can imagine in Norway, spring is very short, maybe 2 months long, and you're going to hear things that might remind you of like a willow flute. In Norway, they could fashion these little willow flutes, but you could only do it the 2 months of the year that spring was happening. And so you can kind of hear a little bit reminiscent of like a willow flute, like a shepherd playing a willow flute. So he composed this piece in 1976. And the landscape, a lot of the beautiful Norwegian landscape influenced his writings. The very first movement is called a tune for the flute. It's unmetered, unmeasured. It's basically improv. So it's at the performer's discretion how they want to play it. So you'll hear a lot of just beautiful longing melodies, little motifs within that movement. The second movement is called the brook. In Norway, there's a lot of ice, and a lot of the brooks are encapsulated for many, many months. So as he wrote this, he had the idea of a bubbling stream working its way through the ice during the spring months. So I think you'll hear a little bit of that as you hear that movement. So be listening for the bubbling brook as well as the brook fighting to get free of the ice. The third movement is called Spring Morning. So you'll just hear some beautiful, it might remind you of a dawn, the dawn of the sun. You might hear a bird as I'm playing it. The fourth movement is called Mountain Yearning. This is the one that makes me think of a shepherd playing for his sheep as he's watching over them on a mountaintop. And the fifth movement is called Spring Play in the Hills. And that one is just a traditional Norwegian folk dance. So you'll hear a lot of the motifs played a few times. And all of these movements are pretty short, but I hope that as I play, you can hear the upbeat, carefree attitude within them. Norwegians are a very stoic people, but they love to tease, and they have kind of hidden jokes and stuff. When I would climb the mountains in Norway, I'd be going along looking at the beautiful landscapes, and all of a sudden at the top there would be this random troll statue. So there's just silly little things like that, and you can catch glimpses of that within their music as well. They just like to kind of tease little things. So you wouldn't know it, but they have a great sense of humor, the Norwegian people. So I'm gonna play the spring tunes for flute, and I'm hoping that you can hear some of the things that I talked about. And any questions that you have, feel free to type in to the comments, and as we continue, I'll answer as many questions about me or the music as I can. So I'm going to start by playing spring tunes for flute. was the spring tunes for flute, for solo flute. So I hope you could hear some of the Norwegian folk tune influence in that. I was just really intrigued with that when I was in Norway. So I thought I would share that piece with you. I was also thinking about another composer whom I love to play, and that's Aaron Copland. I have always just adored his duo for flute and piano, one of my favorite pieces. And as I was doing some research on Copland, I found some surprising similarities between him and Sommerfeld. So that shocked me a little bit. Copland also studied in Europe with Nadia Boulanger, which I had known, but just thinking about the similarities, it struck me as very interesting. He also did a lot with modern music, but especially as time went on, like he lived through the Great Depression and World War II, and as those big world events were happening, Copland really wanted to draw his music back to kind of the Americana feel. And so he wanted to use music to help people, to help boost their spirits. And so he turned to more patriotic, pastoral type pieces. Music is so healing. And I think Copland understood that people were just in such need of having something that could just help them in moments of crisis. Listening to something beautiful with beautiful tonalities can really just boost your spirit. So Copland completed the duo in 1971. So it was about the same time, a few years apart from when Sommerfeld wrote his spring tunes. And I'm going to play the first movement, which is more of a pastoral movement. He has a lot of recitative at the very beginning. It's very free. The flute player can kind of lead and direct. Copland loved medieval chants. He loved folk music as well. And so he tried to incorporate that. And I think you'll hear a lot of that in this first movement. I'm not going to play the whole thing, but I just want to kind of give you a little taste so you can maybe see the differences between Copland and Sommerfeld. So I'm going to play just part of the first movement of the duo for flute and piano by Copland. that's just a little bit of the Copeland duo. So hopefully you could hear some of the pastoral ideas, some of the similarities, some of the differences. But Copeland is just one of those composers that I've just always loved to play, whether it was band music, orchestral music, and solo music. So right now, I think I'm gonna actually turn my computer over and we are going to make a little something. All right. So you'll have to forgive me, I'm not in my kitchen because the internet actually doesn't work really well in the kitchen. So we thought we'd do it at the table out here. So I actually don't drink myself, but I love tea. And I will tell you that when I lived in Norway, I drank a lot of tea. Coffee was very expensive in Norway. It would be like a cup of coffee would be about the equivalent of 12 American dollars. And I didn't have that kind of money to be buying coffee all the time. So tea was much cheaper. So I just got a lot of tea when I was over there. So I thought I'd stick with the Scandinavian theme since I played some Norwegian pieces. My family is actually Swedish, and my mother had this lovely Swedish recipe book called Varsågod, and it's just a lot of traditional Swedish recipes, well-loved things that have been passed down through generations. So I thought I'd make a tea, since especially now that it's getting colder, I thought that might be appropriate. So in a saucepan, now granted I can't do all this right here at the table, but I'll show you what you do. In a saucepan, you're going to take a half cup of sugar and a cinnamon stick, so just one little cinnamon stick, and then you grate a little bit of a lemon rind. So you'll actually grate 1 teaspoon of lemon rind. Remember, if you have any questions, you can type those in and we can chat about those things. All right, there's a little bit of lemon, and then you're gonna grate an orange as well, and you're gonna want a teaspoon and a half of the orange rind, just to give it some citrusy flavor. All right, so you grate that in there, and then you pour in a half cup of water. And then you actually boil that for about 5 minutes, and you're just kind of making a simple syrup. So you would put that on your stove, boil that for about 5 minutes. I actually have already done that, and it's sitting in this warm pot right here. You don't want it to get cold because it'll crystallize because you're making a simple syrup, so try to keep it warm. And you also want to boil water and steep 9 tea bags of just regular tea. So you'll do that separately. When you're done with the simple syrup, you obviously take out that cinnamon stick because you don't want to drink that. And you're gonna add some juices to your mixture. So we have, and I already put these together, but you're gonna take a 1/4 cup of orange juice, a 1/4 cup of pineapple juice, and 2 tablespoons of lemon juice, not too much. And you mix it together, and then you pour it in and mix it with your simple syrup, and so that'll warm it up. Just gonna stir it a little bit. And then you take your tea that you have spent about 5 minutes, you boil the water, you steep the tea for about 5 minutes, and then when you're done, you're gonna take your tea and mix it in to your juice mixture. And then you're gonna have a real nice, warm, citrusy, comfortable hot drink that you can have as the cold weather moves in. So we'll just mix that together. And tea is one of my comforts at night, so I like to have a lot of tea. And then you'll just take it, and if you want to get really fancy, you can pour it in your teacup. And this could be something that you serve at parties, so pour it in the teacup, And then you can take a lovely little orange slice, stick it right in the top, let it float. And then they suggested having a whole clove, and you just kind of stick it in the middle there, and there's your drink. So that's a little hot tea punch is what they call it. Well, guys, I really had a lot of fun sharing some of what I learned in Norway. That was a really neat experience for me, and to be able to get exposed to a different culture for a whole year. I tell you what, it's nice coming back to the U.S. and being in rehearsals where everything is spoken in English. When I was in Norway, I didn't really learn a lot of the language. I tried, but it's actually a dead language. There wasn't even a Rosetta Stone. So I had to just kind of limp along, and I learned a lot about the Norwegian terms for music and different things, but it was really hard sitting in rehearsals when they were speaking Norwegian and your brain is working like really, really fast trying to figure things out. But I love that I had that experience and I got to come back here, and so I just wanted to share some of the Scandinavian culture with you guys, and just thank you for letting me share all of this with you tonight, to be able to play with you, share a little bit about myself. And please tune in next week as we start our Hispanic Heritage celebration. That'll be absolutely wonderful. And we are so looking forward to the time when we can all meet in person and perform together, and you guys can hear us play live once again. Thank you guys so much for joining me, and I hope to see you all very, very, very soon. Thank you.